Greetings, Rob Harrell with Talks from the Chair, and I was asked to make some comments regarding the matter of love and faith. And those are two very broad categories, but thought about that for a bit, and a verse came to my mind from the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 9, where the apostle says, "No eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor has the mind of man conceived the things which God has prepared for him." That passage is probably connected to a passage in Isaiah 64 in the Old Testament. It's probably a reference with some similarity and dissimilarity to it. It's not an exact wording, but a change of emphasis with Paul as he thinks about the passage, assumedly, in Isaiah, where in Isaiah, the prophet speaks about the greatness and character of God and the need to wait upon him, whereas in the letter to the Corinthians, Paul is saying how wonderful it is, how marvelous are the things that God prepares for those who are trusting him. So the emphasis with Paul is on the things that will come our way as believers in Jesus Christ. And in Isaiah, if it's a connection there, it's about the greatness and marvelous nature of God and the need again to wait for him. Either way, we see a connection between love and faith. What is love? Love is the supreme preference for another. It is for one person to give their heart to something or someone else. It is sacrificial, it is deep, it is real, and it is beyond human description. To love a child, to love your spouse, to love a friend, to love a particular thing, particular object even, to have a certain passion for perhaps even animals is something that is so deep and so true and universal. And we speak of love for God when we come to the Christian Bible. Jesus said that the two greatest commandments, when he was asked and tested at one time, the two greatest commandments of all were, first of all, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And he said the second is like unto it, which is to love your neighbor as yourself. He says, on these things, all the other commandments, all 600 hang on these two things. Paul says in another place in 1 Corinthians 13, as he speaks of love, he says, many things will pass away, but there will be faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these, he says, is love. I must have love in my heart, as Jesus tells me, for him supremely. And then with that, likewise, I must love my neighbor as myself. I can't love God unless I trust God. You can't have a marriage without trust, can you? You can't have an abiding friendship with another person without trust in them. You have to trust them. You have to have some measure of confidence in them. It is an ingredient. It is the cement that holds it together. To trust God is to love God, and to love God is to trust God. I can't tell the Lord God, I love you, I give myself to you, and at the same time say, but I do not trust you in this area, in this area, in this area. You see, it works itself out very practically, doesn't it? To love is to trust, and to trust is to love. By trusting, I prove indeed I do have deep affection for the other. What is faith? Faith is trust. Biblical faith is trusting God no matter what. Biblical faith is trusting God no matter what. And that faith, as we look to the letter of James in the end of the New Testament, always works itself out. Faith without works, in other words, faith without action, is dead and useless. I have to work it out. So, in other words, if I love God, I have to believe in Him, and I have to let that faith reveal itself in my everyday living. Faith without works is dead. And so I love God, and I don't just say that I love God, but I trust Him. I love you, God, we say, and I trust you, therefore, with my life as I come to your Son, Jesus Christ, and I turn from my sins, and I let you come into my life and revolutionize my life. Your Spirit is now leading me, and I'm going to trust you to lead my way. I trust you, God. I trust you with my life. I trust you with all my property. I trust you with my family. I trust you with my decision making. You are the leader now of my life, and I'm going to trust you in the direction of my life and in the decisions I have to make about my life. I trust you with everything. And doing that is expressing again our confidence in God and our love and affection for Him. I again cannot trust God and not love Him, and I cannot love Him without trusting Him. So, again, what is Paul saying in this particular passage? He's saying you can't imagine what God has prepared for you as you have become part of His kingdom through His Son Jesus. Your eye can't imagine what it's going to look like. Your ear can't even perceive the sounds that will come to you when you enter through the gate of eternity. Your mind can't even begin to picture the scenery of what it will be like. And he's saying it will be so wonderful to us. And so we must believe this, and we must not let our love for Christ fade. And it can fade. You can't lose your first love. Isn't that what it said in the beginning of the Apocalypse, the book of Revelation, at the end of the Bible there? He says to one of the churches there, I have this against you. You have lost your first love. You have to hold on in faith, and you have to continue to believe God and demonstrate your love for Him. So the two really are, in some sense, as we think about it, interwoven. I will love Him, so I will trust Him. I will trust Him, and that will prove that I really do indeed love Him. May God continue to stir your mind as you think about these things and other things. And I appreciate the question, and I hope I gave some thoughts that were somewhat beneficial to you. God bless.